This is the San Francisco 49ers Report. I'm your host, Chase Sr., coming your way on today's show. Now that training camps are in session for all 32 teams in the National Football League, ESPN put together their roster projections for all teams in the league. And as part of that, we dissect it and we take a look at players who did not make the squad. So some surprise cut candidates that we want to unpack and dissect here on the 49ers Report. If you think the Niners have the best roster in the NFL, since we're going to be talking a lot about this Niners roster today, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. If not, I want you to comment why. We begin at the quarterback position. John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan on Tuesday saying that Brandon Allen and Josh Dobbs will compete for QB2 snaps behind Brock Purdy. I think the Niners are going to roll with three quarterbacks on the 53. No surprises here. To the running back spot, Christian McCaffrey coming off NFL Offensive Player of the Year honors, more than 2,000 all-purpose yards. He led the NFL in touches. He is clearly RB1. I think that Elijah Mitchell, if he gets hurt again, if he struggles, is in danger of getting cut. ESPN has him making the team. He's RB2. Jordan Mason, Isaac Guerendo, RB3 and 4. And then, of course, Kyle Juszczyk, the lone fullback, making this team. Which brings us to the cuts made at the running back spot. Patrick Taylor, who came to the Niners from the Green Bay Packers, the tallest running back that Kyle Shanahan has had since coming into the Bay in 2017. And then UDFA Cody Schrader, who led the SEC in rushing last year. Patrick Taylor does have some special teams ability. Cody Schrader, measurables, not going to impress you. 40-yard dash, not going to blow you away. But he's a good football player, and I can't wait to see what a player like that can do as a grinder throughout training camp and the preseason. We flip the page to the wide receiver spot. This is probably the deepest wide receiver room in the NFL. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings. Those are your top three wideouts. Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, Ronnie Bell. If I were putting together this Niners roster, these would be the 6 wide receivers that I would keep. Wide receiver cuts, some people might be surprised by this. Danny Gray, he was a third-round pick a couple of years ago, 4.3 speed, 1 career catch. Got to be able to do better, hasn't been able to show anything, and he's been injured a lot. Plus, the Niners are very deep at that position. Chris Conley could make this team because he's an excellent special teams player. And Kyle Shanahan really trusted him late in the year, in the playoffs, offensively. And he ended up making some really big plays in that playoff push. Trent Taylor, he can really only impact the team as a punt returner, not as a wide receiver. And because of him being limited, I think he's on the outside looking in, so I agree with ESPN there. Tight end position. Could another third-round pick get let go in Cam Latu? George Kittle, Logan Thomas, Braden Willis making the team. So Cam Latu does not. This is a player who was drafted out of Alabama, struggled mightily in training camp in the preseason last year, could not catch the football or hold on to the football. And then he suffered a knee injury and hasn't been able to practice with the Niners since. Mason Pline is a UDFA, former basketball player. I'd like to see him come back on the practice squad. Eric Saubert, a well-traveled veteran who just isn't good enough to make this team. Offensive line. One of the bigger question marks on this Niners team going into the 2024 campaign. Your starters, at least as of now, left to right, probably going to be Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, John Feliciano, and Colton McKivitz. The backups, Jalen Moore, Dominic Pooney, Spencer Burford, Chris Hubbard. 9 total offensive linemen making the team. There could be some changes here. And I don't think that the offensive line is set in stone. In fact, I think a couple of players could make this team who, according to ESPN, get cut. Jarrett Kingston, a draftee by the Niners at a USC. Ben Bartch could get some snaps as a backup center. Nick Zackelj, Brandon Parker. I really like Drake Nugent, who also doesn't make the team. I think that he could challenge Jake Brendel to be this team's starting center if the Niners give him the opportunity to do so. But those are 5 offensive linemen who don't make this team, 9 that do. Be sure to give me a follow on social media. I'm on X at Chase_Senior and Instagram at Chase_Senior. The social media pages have been popping. I really appreciate everybody for their support. Don't be a stranger, by the way. Slide in the DMs and say what's up. Today's Niners Report, by the way, is sponsored by Game Time. If you're looking for last-minute tickets at the lowest price guarantee, Game Time is the app that you should be using. You can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy shows, theater events, and more. With their flash deals, you can save even more with their exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. It's an easy way to find and buy tickets to a Major League Baseball game if you want to go to the San Francisco Giants, San Francisco Giants game, right there on McCovey Cove. If you want to go to a Golden State Warriors game once the NBA season comes around, or a Niners game this year, download the Game Time app. Use the code CHATSPORTS. For first-time users, you can get $20 off your purchase. That's the code CHATSPORTS, $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CHATSPORTS, $20 off that first purchase. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app. I promise you, you will not regret it. To the defensive side of the football here, Nick Bosa, Leonard Floyd, Malik Collins, Javon Hargrave, Jordan Elliott, Yetur Gross-Matos, Kevin Givens, Drake Jackson, Robert Beal. The 9 defensive linemen, according to ESPN, who end up making this Niners roster. One of the surprising cuts here, defensive tackle Kalia Davis. I think the Niners are a little bit thin at defensive tackle. That defensive line unit, it went over a huge makeover this past offseason. I mean, a lot of different moving parts and new players and new faces. Will that result in better play for the Niners' sake? They hope so. Linebackers, Fred Warner, Devondre Campbell, Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, Jalen Graham, and D. Winters. I'm really excited to see what the 2 second-year players can do in Jalen Graham and D. Winters. I think they have a lot of potential. Last year during the preseason, they were flying around. I think that they'll be good players in this league. The linebacker cuts, Tatum Bethune, the 7th-round pick, who mentioned Dre Greenlaw after he got drafted as far as his playing style out of Florida State. He could be a practice squad candidate. And then Ezekiel Turner has been a really good special teams player the last couple of years with the Arizona Cardinals. But the Niners, like a lot of their other positions, really deep, really talented. So some of these players who do end up getting cut, they could latch on with other teams across the NFL. I know a lot of you were saying, whoa, Chase, what about Dre Greenlaw? He's not going to start the season on the active roster. I think that he is going to begin the season on PUP, maybe even on IR, unfortunately. Coming off that torn Achilles in February, that recovery, that rehab is no joke. I like what the Niners did at the cornerback spot this offseason, bringing in a lot of quality depth pieces. They were thin as far as depth last year. Charvarius Ward, Diamador Lenore, Renardo Green, Isaac Yiadom, Darrell Luter Jr., and Chase Lucas. Ward and Lenore, your top 2 corners. Nick Sorensen saying they want to start second-round pick Renardo Green in the slot. I wouldn't rule him out as getting some safety snaps in a hybrid role. Isaac Yiadom analytically was excellent last year. He could surprise a lot of people. Darrell Luter Jr. was really good in the spring, and Chase Lucas, he could play the slot, and he's a really good special teamer. Some surprising cuts here. Ambry Thomas axed. Got to be better, more consistent, and the Niners coaching staff has lost trust in him. Rock Ya-Sin, former second-round pick out of Temple University, where I went to school, actually. He's been injured a lot. Solid player when on the field, but injured too often, and the Niners, again, deep here, so they're going to have to make some difficult decisions. And Samuel Womack, who had some good ball skills at Toledo in the college ranks, struggled in the spring. And if he doesn't play better, he's going to be on the chopping block. Safeties, Talanoa Hufanga, Jair Brown, George Odom, Malik Mustafa. Niners are a little bit thin here, especially when you think about the injury concerns with Hufanga, who tore his ACL last year. If he can't start the season, you're looking at Jair Brown, George Odom, potentially as your starting safeties, unless you want to start a second-year player in Brown and a first-year player in Malik Mustafa. I like Mustafa, but again, he's a rookie, and the Niners trying to implement some new schematical elements under defensive coordinator Nick Sorensen. No notable cuts at the safety spot here from ESPN's roster projection. And of course, you can't forget the specialists. Jake Moody going into year 2. I think he's going to have a good year. I really do. Mitch Wishnowsky, congrats to him for having a baby recently with his wife. And then the long snapper Tabor Pepper, they are shoo-ins to make this team, barring any injuries. Which cut surprised you the most during that roster projection? Let me know down in the comments section. Don't forget to subscribe. And thank you so much for joining us here on the San Francisco 49ers Report.